All right, hey Push Kids, we're back for our next lecture in AP US history. Today we're going to be looking at the Columbian Exchange and its impact on both sides of the Atlantic Ocean. Our essential question for today says, explain the causes of the Columbian Exchange and its effects on Europe and the Americas during the period after 1492. So the causes of the Columbian Exchange are really simple. It's the arrival of Europeans. And so the arrival of Europeans is going to lead to the introduction of new products between Indians and Europeans, and simply labeled the Columbian Exchange. And we can see from the particular graphic, we can see all of the different types of things that are going across the Atlantic. So for instance, from North America to Europe, you have things such as corn, tomatoes, potatoes, peanuts, peppers, the sweet potato, turkeys, pumpkins, tobacco, quinine, the bean that will make chocolate, vanilla, all these different types of things are coming to Europe. And then from Europe to the New World, we have things such as the onion, the olive, the coffee bean, bananas, grapes, sugar canes, honeybees, livestock, and most importantly, diseases. And so what we're going to look at today is we're going to look at how does this exchange affect Europeans and how does it affect North Americans. And so the first one we're going to look at is we're going to start with Europeans. All right. So the Columbian Exchange is going to bring new crops to Europe from the Americas. It's going to do a few things. It's going to stimulate population growth. It's going to lead to new sources of mineral wealth, and it's going to shift the entire economic system. So the first one that we want to look at is the introduction of things such as potatoes and corn, and basically all those other foodstuffs that you see there are going to really improve the diets and the life expectancies of people around the world. Because of this, European population really starts to grow. Now we do have to remember that the European population had been really depressed. It had gone down precipitously during the late 1300s and through the 1400s, of course, through something that we may remember called the Black Death and the plague. And European populations are really start to rebound. We see European populations between 1500 and 1800 grow fairly significantly during this time period. And a lot of this is because they were eating better. They had more food. They had more calories. They were healthier. And because they were healthier and they had better diets, they were able to, stave off diseases. Kids lived through infancy more often than they had before. And all of these things had some pretty significant impacts on European population growth. Now, the other thing is going to be the introduction of and the change in the economies of Europe. Now, this is all going to be precipitated by the Spanish, who are going to send explorers called conquistadors to the New World. Now, the conquistadors are there to find gold and conquer lands. Now, of course, they will write back about how they're attempting to Christianize the Native Americans. Remember the 3 Gs that we talked about in the last particular video. Now, there's a couple really famous ones. Just for funsies, I'll go ahead and mention a few of them. Cortez is going to conquer the Aztecs with basically like 112 men. Defeats a city that's literally 1,000 times bigger than his army is. He's outnumbered 1,000 to 1 and wins. And then almost in a similar crazy instance, a guy named Pizarro is going to conquer the 3,000 long mile empire of the Incas. However, these guys are really motivated by what they see in these cultures, by both the Incas and the Aztecs, and it is gold. And they see that they have gold and they want to get their hands on it. And after defeating them, they start to get a lot of gold. We see the amount of gold that starts to be brought back from the New World to Europe in the chart on the bottom right. And you can see in millions of pesos just how much is brought back between 1500 and 1600, and it starts to go up exponentially. Now, what this is going to do is this is going to start to help to end European feudalism. Feudalism was an economic system that in Europe was based upon people being able to barter and exchange the work in their fields for the ability to work those particular fields. It was very medieval and had been around for quite some time. However, the introduction of all of this money really starts to lead to the development of capitalism. As money now becomes a medium of exchange in Europe, the feudal system really starts to break down, and capitalism over this period really starts to take over. Now, this Spanish exploration and conquest were accompanied and furthered by widespread deadly epidemics, and they devastated native populations and by the introduction of crops and animals not found in the Americas. So we got to look at these, what changes now on the American side with the Native Americans. Now, by far the one that I think most of you guys are already well aware of is European diseases. Smallpox, influenza, which is the flu. Nearly 90%, if not higher, of Native Americans were killed. The early settlers to the New England areas, such as the Pilgrims, they talk about running across Native American towns where the only thing they found was bones. The entire village would be entirely wiped out. So huge amounts of people are killed. By far the worst one is smallpox, which you see is a drawing kind of how it affected Native Americans. It just absolutely ravaged their populations. They had no immunities to them like the Europeans did. Now, it also, though there were other effects besides just diseases, the Europeans brought over other things that have become, very kind of ubiquitous when we think about Central, South American, and Native American, North American places and populations. For instance, we think of Central America and the banana. When you think of coffee, we oftentimes think of Central or South American as a product, but these products developed first in Europe. And then oftentimes when we think of Native Americans, we think about them on a horse, like you see in the painting that's here. But this doesn't happen until after the Columbian Exchange. And the horse is going to be very transformative for Native Americans, especially those living on the Great Plains, as this allows them much, much greater mobility in the hunting of bison. It's going to really change how they live. It's also going to change the power structure as well, as Native American tribes that are able to acquire horses are able to then acquire more power and more land in those particular regions. All right, so that ends our lecture here today on the impact of the Columbian Exchange. Understand that the Columbian Exchange is impactful both on the Europeans as it changes their economic system and leads to population growth, and in the Americas as it leads to population decline, and it also changes how they live as well. So Columbian Exchange, big impacts on both sides of the Atlantic Ocean. Remember, bring back your question or comment and your connection to class tomorrow. Till next time, go Pack.